Travis Ketchum is the founder and CEO of Contest Domination, a powerful contest platform. He started with a few $1,000s and some credit card debt, which is now fast becoming the contest platform to beat for businesses who want to build an engaging audience filled with qualified leads. So today is a unique podcast because it's not just an audio podcast, but we're also doing video live on Skype where I'm here, where it's going to be uploaded to YouTube so you guys can actually see that. So without wasting more time, Travis, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for your patience. Today's one of those days where we're getting started. We're ahead of ourselves. So I want to start off, Travis. First of all, tell my audience a little bit about you, your background, where you're from, where you're at right now. And then later on, let's get into a little bit more details about what we're going to bring, which is your product about contest domination and how it can help everyone out.
Sure. So I'm located out here in Seattle. I've been out of college for about 3.5 years, but definitely one of those people that was an entrepreneur from day one, right? I hustled car washes and lawn mowing and had a paper route and would resell soda down in the line at the ferry. I'd buy it for 10 cents and sell it for 75. And even back then, I knew I had kind of a knack for it because, I remember washing cars and mowing yards, and I wouldn't go in and say, hey, it's $10. Because I would wait for the person to actually say, okay, what do I owe you? And I would say, well, how good of a job did I do today? What do you think it's worth? And I would have a price in my mind, and as long as it was above that, I would take the offer. And most of the time, it was 2 to 3 times above the number I had in my head. I was like, this is great. I only have to mow 1 yard instead of 3 to get that kind of revenue. So I knew I loved hustling. I knew I loved going out, doing a good job, getting paid for it. I was the person like back in scouting that always had the new backpacks and the new tents, and it wasn't because mom and dad bought it. It's because I was out there hustling and making it happen. So entrepreneur since day one.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, not to cut in there, but the one thing I want to tell for the audience who's just listened to the audio, you can see the smile on his face. It's the exact same smile I get too, and you entrepreneurs can understand that when you're making money, it's not necessarily about the money itself, but the process of making it that really puts a smile on your face, and it's what drives you. So sorry, I just wanted to I had to pop that in.
Yeah, well, it was great. I mean, I was lucky to grow up around other entrepreneurial type spirit people, and to reinforce that behavior, 2 things happened. One was one of my customers wouldn't let me come back and mow their yard until I looked up the word entrepreneur in the dictionary.
Sure.
And the second thing that would happen is several of them, because I would try to work harder and harder every time, they would give me a small increase in pay when I would ask that question every single time I would come back. So totally a reinforcement, right? Positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
But my first real on paper business, legal business was in high school after I turned 18. And I started a little computer company, right? Because I was kind of a nerd, and I was the kind of person that tore things apart just to see if I could break them and put it back together kind of thing. So I taught myself quite a bit about computers and, the hardware side. And I knew that, hey, this is a skill I have. This is sort of rare, back in 2005, 2006, not everyone was a techie. And my friends wanted high-end gaming computers. I'm like, you know what? I can build that for you. I can build that for you for a modest markup. I can beat the prices of the more expensive guys. So I built a couple high-end gaming desktops, and that's cool for the first 5 people that can afford it, right? In your friend network.
Yeah.
And then I decided, okay, let's do some small business, at-home type service. But that was immediately, wow, this is a huge investment of time. Yeah, I'm getting paid better than any other, kind of work I could do at 18 years old. But this isn't scalable. And so I looked into drop shipping through eBay. And I actually started drop shipping like hundreds of computers a day on eBay. And I'm not a programmer, but I figured out enough to write like a script to post tons of eBay postings. I figured out sort of the magic buy it now sweet spot to get these, conversions. And it was a, minimal markup, but it would ship right from the warehouse to the customer. And it was great. Here I am 18, like hacking over the high school filter to run my eBay business.
Yeah.
And it was great, but the big learning part with that business was that it was really sort of a mistaken opportunity that I tripped over. And so what started as something that was fantastic eventually had margins that were eaten away. And then I quickly, only after a few months, it was so inundated with competition and then also false bids from like Nigeria and stuff.
Sure.
That it went from profitable to sort of profitable to not profitable. But I made enough money to finance most of my college degree.
That's
so that was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was really the start, I guess, of my entrepreneurial journey.
Nice. And, it's definitely the start. However, would you not agree? Because I notice a lot of people, just like myself, who don't tend to get started either online or, with a business. It's always that first, couple sales where you see coming in that really gives you that light, like, wow, this is actually real. This can actually get done. If you can go back in time where you actually had that, was that kind of the start to, well, like, this is really real. I'm looking at my bank account and I actually made money. Now, how do I double it? Did that kind of go through your mind? Did you have that moment?
Yeah, well, I mean, at first I was like, this, yeah, the let it sink in, is this real moment was definitely awesome when I was 18. I love my parents and they're pretty encouraging. But I do remember when I first got my business license, my mom made the remark of, why aren't you just getting more hours at Round Table Pizza, where I also work delivering pizza? And I remember being like, huh. And then I made like $1,000 my first week, and I was like, that's why I don't spend more time delivering pizza, because this was something I can leverage. And getting that taste for leveraged money,
Yeah.
like, not, it wasn't even necessarily about how much money. It was the fact that you can compound the value you bring to any marketplace and get paid exponentially more than you could just doing, trading time for money. And figuring out that there was some kind of magic component there that I'm still spending my life figuring out and how to maximize,
Yeah.
was really the aha moment for me when I was 18. It's like, the salary job may not be for me. I ended up getting one for a little bit of a time, but it really gave me a taste. It's like chum in the water. It's like,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Getting started, is normally the hardest thing for a lot of people. A lot of people fail because they have this idea and this thought in the back of their mind. However, this thought never really converts into a business, somewhat to say, which yet alone just setting up the business, turning it into a profitable business itself. So walk us through, the steps kind of that you took throughout your career as you kind of got started. You started seeing one business work for you. You jumped into another thing, and give us that kind of time lapse of what basically happened.
sure. So, as quickly as that business started, it went away. And that was fine because I was 18 and I was stupid, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So, I took a few months off for more or less. I still delivered pizza just because mainly that wasn't really a job. That was hanging out with my friends. I happened to deliver food and get paid for it. But,
Sure.
um, took it somewhat easy. Went and saw my family in Texas and stuff. Then I went to college. And here I am thinking, hey, I have one business that works, sort of not necessarily arrogant, but overconfident for sure in my
Sure.
ability to generate a quick business that worked. And so, I did the college thing, and while I was there, I tried a couple different little online ideas, and they sort of flopped. To be honest, just straight flopped.
Gotcha.
Everything from designing Dad's Weekend T-shirts that I tried to have subsidized by advertising and all this other kind of crazy ideas. But I didn't give up, I guess, was the biggest thing. And while I was there, I was still doing some IT stuff for the school just to try to keep my brain sharp. When I would come home for breaks to visit my family, I actually got like a seasonal job at Best Buy selling TVs, if only to keep my selling muscles strong, right? Because
Sure.
I do think that selling is an art and a muscle. And even though Best Buy didn't pay that well, just constantly challenging, like closing a sale and keep myself in that sort of mode of how do you generate revenue and understand the needs of a consumer. That mixed with my technical background eventually led me to where I am today, even though they were sort of, dead end jobs or menial jobs, I guess. But the technical background and constantly working out that sales muscle prepared me when opportunity was going to be there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so after I graduated, I moved to Seattle, and I got a job, good job, as an account manager job for a digital curriculum company that sells digital curriculum to high schools. And I was managing several million in annual renewal accounts, which is like nothing to sneeze at for a first job out of college. But I hated it.
Oh
It
yeah.
was a cubicle job, and there was a number of things that weren't set up that sort of scratched my entrepreneurial itch. It's that when we first got the job, it was proposed that, hey, if you crush it, you will get paid more. I'm like, sign me up. I am on board for that. There's a good account base. I can, cut the dead weight from the good weight. I can grow good accounts. I'd been working out that sales muscle. I was ready to go.
Yeah.
But what ended up being is, instead of that, it was mostly, we're going to pay you more money based on the number of minutes you spend on the phone and the number of activities you log in Salesforce. Oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I immediately knew like this is not going to work. Even though I was meeting my goals and exceeding them, I knew that that was not going to be a long-term solution for me, just because I need more out of my challenge, my everyday challenge, my in and out. So I went and I was like, okay, cold turkey. I just started dating my now girlfriend for several years, and her dad thought I was crazy for quitting my job. He'd been a doctor for years. He goes, "How's this going to affect your CV?" I'm like, "Well, I'm young. I'm 23. I kind of don't care. I just want to
Sure.
take a risk and see what I can do." And so I started working with best-selling authors and speakers and helping them manage their list growth, their customer acquisition, their JV and affiliate programs. And I started to really get a hang for, a feel for how to build a list, a responsive list, and really make it work to drive sales. But like any, shoemaker's kids who doesn't have any shoes, my own list was lacking.
Sure.
And
Sure.
so I knew that I wanted to refocus. And that's when I launched my first little WordPress product that was going to help me build an explosive list for myself quickly. Because I didn't want to wait, 5, 10 years like some of the big players had for big lists. I wanted to get hundreds or thousands of emails a day
Now.
quickly, now, today. Yeah. And I knew that emails were brutally the best way to build a business that was somewhat sustainable online. And so I was like, I want to make a contest thing because all the other contest platforms didn't focus on the list, right?
Sure.
A lot of them focused on the social aspect, which is great for social proof. But all I cared about was the list, right? When you only have a couple of dollars to spend, it needs to be as effective as possible. So all I cared about was an email list. So I built this little plugin and it worked for me like right out of the gate. And I was like, hey, if this works for me, it's probably going to work for other people.
Yeah.
And so I turned right around and launched it and sold it as a product.
Yeah.
And we sold, like thousands of copies right out of the gate. And I was like, whoa, this idea that I put half of the development on a credit card now just paid for itself, put like 10 grand in the bank, and wow, okay, we're on to something. And then that's
Sure.
where the evolution started for our current product.
Now, did you create it yourself, or did you outsource the actual work to have someone else create it for you?
Yeah, I'm not a developer, right?
Sure.
So I made the first mistake of hiring a developer who was grossly underqualified, trying to be cheap, and you get what you pay for,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is nothing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
got nothing out of it. So
Yeah.
I got a bunch of useless code that couldn't be used for anything, literally. I mean, those of us who've used WordPress, like a plugin means you log into your WordPress, you hit upload, a file installs, you hit activate, and you can use it.
Yep.
This guy's idea of a plugin was like logging into a cPanel, setting up database credentials. And I had told him, I was like, this needs to be simple enough for an 11-year-old female blogger to use. Like, if it's not that simple, I can't sell it,
Yes.
or I can't use it.
Yes.
And so, that was, there goes $1,000, $2,000.
Yep.
And so I hired a good developer that was more than I can afford, but I put the rest on a credit card, and it ended up making the world a difference, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
now I had a quality product that was built well that I could sell. Because God forbid, even if the first guy had given me something I could upload, it probably would have been complete junk, and I would have found myself in this support nightmare.
Yeah.
So, yeah, overextending myself at that early stage while risky, I don't suggest anyone does it. It just kind of worked out for us.
Oh, yeah. I actually want to relate to that for you, just so you know. I had the exact same thing in my offline business. I own a security company, and I was hiring an actual, it was on Odesk. I was actually hiring a coder to build a custom software for my company that would do like a customer relationship software, a CRM. They will obviously, anyways, long story short, the exact same thing, word for word, what you said. It was the front end. Nothing was even working on the back end. And dumb me, I was excited. I wanted to get started with it. It took me $2,500 into it to finally say, hey, look, is anything going to be like, I don't see any progress. Yeah, don't worry. You got to do it. So I personally posted, and the reason why I'm saying this for other people, I want to get some advice so for other people don't make the same mistakes we made. I posted another ad, and I said, hey, I have a software. I need you to look at it. Don't know if it's functionable. So one gentleman actually said, yeah, I'd like to look at it for you. I messaged him, and he goes, I just want to warn you, nothing is coded yet. I just want to tell you, everything is just the front end. Nothing is functionable. This should probably take me maybe 2 days to actually code what he's done. And I'm talking, this has already been like 4 months. So he goes, he's just wasting your time. Anyway, I go, what are you going to do about it? I got frustrated. I said, look, if you can fix it, he goes, no, I'd have to start all over again. So I was hesitant, but you know what? I took that leap, that risk, and I started all over with him. And he's been my coder ever since now, full time on salary, now for I think 2 years. And we're just releasing our industry software. Literally like yesterday, we're done it. So, there are great experiences from that, but be careful.
You nailed it, because that first guy, it drug along for months and the constant delays, and I had set up bonuses if he had gotten it done by a certain date. Nothing. Yeah. And I gave it to this new guy, and he's like, he goes, I in good conscience can't use any of this. Yeah. And same thing, in 2 days, knocked out what I've been waiting months. I was like, oh my God. So, while I don't suggest anyone finance a business on a credit card, what I do recommend is you do whatever it takes to get the best developer you can get your hands on, and then go 10% more and figure out how you can get there, because it's worth every penny in time, frustration, sunk costs, because you're going to end up hiring that guy anyway. So you might as well just cut the dead weight on your path to get there.
Amen to that. And the one thing I want to transition into is, and I wrote a blog post about this a couple days ago, what it obviously takes to be super wealthy. And one of them is actually risk. Now, both here, you and I, sure, we lost at one point. We didn't give up, and it was a risk to obviously hire somebody else to get it started. So talk to me a little bit about, the risk factor and how, having a bad experience in the past doesn't mean, the next person you're going to talk to is going to give you that same exact experience, because obviously you've been very successful with what you created right after letting go and actually taking that risk factor. So talk to me a little bit about what you think about taking a risk and what it's done for you.
Sure. So the biggest concept for people to understand, and it's hard to come to terms with emotionally if you haven't already dealt with it before, and that is the concept of sunk cost. Okay. A lot of people think sunk cost is like, well, yeah, I lost it. Oh, well. That's not exactly it. Sunk cost just means you can't let bad prior decisions or investments dictate your future decisions or investments. And you think like, okay, we got to be, obviously you have to get smarter. You have to spend your money more wisely. But just because you failed doesn't mean you're not on the right track.
Yeah.
And just because you lost money doesn't mean you shouldn't invest more. It just means you shouldn't invest more with that same person, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so as long as you can emotionally come to terms with you just lose sometimes, you learn, right? In this case, for both of us, it was up-level the quality of the developer. It's just going to cost more to get done what you want to get done. If you can come to terms with that, not only can you rectify your current situation, but then once you get success, now you know. Yeah. Right? It's better than sunk costs. It's more of an investment to tell you what not to do.
Yeah, true.
So for me, it was just more of okay, I made a bad call. I tried to be cheap on it. That was a terrible decision. This guy over here who costs, 3 to 4 times as much, comes with recommendations and has proven work that is very similar to what I want him to do for me for a different use case. It was a no-brainer decision at that point. It's like, whatever I have to do to get him to make what I want, because I know it'll work, then I'm going to do it. Like, no matter what. That's going to happen.
Yeah, and you said the magic words that, again, I used in that blog post, which is 100% true. You had belief. You had a 100% certainty that no matter what it's going to take, if I just had what I want to create, if I just had it in my hand, it is going to work. So without, having the belief of, it's going to work, people tend not to push forward to really creating it, or even jumping and taking that leap to actually get that creative side of their mind to push forward. So one thing I really want to point out from what you said was you had a belief that 100%, if I just had it, it would work. And do you believe, like, being an entrepreneur, that you are, you always have this belief factor that no matter what I do, it's going to work. I just need it. Do you have that belief?
Yeah. I mean, did I have any idea it would turn into a business that makes per day what I had spent almost in total for the first project.
Yeah.
I had no idea that we would be like the contest guys, right?
Yes.
I knew it would be a good product. I knew it could be effective for the narrow use case I had outlined that it would be used for. I knew it would be good at that. Um, I had no idea the upside potential. Like
Yeah.
even I, being optimistic entrepreneur that I am, had no idea of the upside potential that
Yeah.
it could turn into. But I knew that if, as long as I kept the scope in check, right, I think that's also important.
Sure.
I knew that if I could be very explicit about what it was going to be used for and take a good look around and realize nothing else filled the specific niche and that I could sell based on that hook, and if I could build something to that core specific feature set, I knew I could make enough success to make it work. That I had believed that I could make it worth my time, right? I had no idea of the enormous upside potential, but I
Yes.
knew I could make it worth my time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I bet you now everybody's thinking, we keep saying it, we keep saying it. So no better time to transition into, contest domination. And, you mentioned email marketing, and a lot of my viewing audience already know what that is. However, the importance of it, I couldn't but stress exactly like how you said. It really is that next piece to increasing the amount of income you have on a yearly basis. The reason why is because if somebody showed remote interest in what you had to offer enough to say, hey, here's my information, my email address, I'd like to either get more or get your free course or however you set it up, that is a lead, somebody who can possibly purchase something that is related to what they opted into in the beginning. So it's like, for example, if somebody walked into your store and looked around in your store and said, oh, that's cool, maybe when I have a little bit more money, I would buy it, but left your store, let's say 3 months down the road, they have that money. They may not have remembered I have to go back to that, retail store to buy that purse or whatever it is. But here, if you stay on top of it with email marketing, oh, I got the money now. I got the email. Sure, let me go ahead and jump in and purchase that. So, that's a little bit about email marketing for me. I want you to introduce, a little bit about email marketing, but then jump into contest, your product contest domination.
Sure. So for us, email marketing, when we looked at all the different channels that, for clients that I was working with, or all of my history, all of my experience bundled up, it was really obvious that email was dramatically better in terms of relationship building, building an authentic relationship that with the potential prospect, as well as the revenue potential compared to any other channel by far, right? Like if you stacked, 100 Twitter followers and 100 Facebook, likes and 100 emails, like the 100 emails would make you way more than everything else combined. Like in one promotion to the email, you would probably make more than 1,000 of the other combined. It's like it's uncanny how lopsided it is.
Correct.
And it's sort of like if you knew if you knew, okay, I have $100 to spend to invest in something, or if I had 3 hours to invest my time into something, and you knew that the returns were that lopsided, why would you focus anywhere else? Because for big brands, sure, I mean, you want the social proof, you want the community, you want the engagement, and it's all great. But email, like if you have limited resources, email gives you the most dramatic ROI. That was just that. Any data sheet you see anywhere will tell you that, right? There is value to social networks, of course, but email was always this huge driver of authentic relationships and revenue.
And did you know that before creating Contest Domination?
Yes, because of the JV and affiliate programs I had been helping run, and I was actually doing user acquisition. So, I was doing ad buys. Even on LinkedIn, we're scaling up to where we were spending, $30,000-$40,000 a month in ad spend, and it was like, yeah, email. Like everything else, I'm like, we'll put the buttons there to collect social proof along the way,
Absolutely.
but we get the email first.
Oh yeah.
Email first. Everything else comes after that, right? Everything else is adding additional hooks to the relationship. The email is the pillar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew that going in, that the other stuff is great and it is beneficial, but the pillar that will hold you up when it really matters is email.
Yes.
And so knowing that, I wanted to build a platform. At first it started as a very simple little product called Contest Domination that used to be a WordPress plugin. Now it's a full-blown software as a service, dedicated app, great features, rich, but the core philosophy was, if we give someone an incentive to give us their information, right? A prize for a contest, and then we give them 1 point. If they drive us another referral instead of giving them points just for the act of sharing on social, we want to give them points for confirmed referrals, right? For actual performance of giving us more emails. So as they drove us more leads, we would actually give them 10 more points for each person they drove us. So as soon as they entered, like, yeah, I have 1 point, but holy crap, if I get one person to enter, I'm going to get 10 times better chances of winning this prize.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm going to try to get a friend, at least one friend to enter, right? And so even if you're looking at it from a user acquisition standpoint of spending money, if you can drive one person in, at least get, you know, 0.2, 0.5, or 0.7 more people for each person that enters, that's 0.2, 0.5, 0.7, you know, up to 70% less spend to get the same audience, right?
Exactly.
Because you get this magnified effect on the entrance. So I knew that was sort of the model. And so Contest Domination, what started as a simple WordPress plugin, as soon as it got some success, the first thing I asked myself was, A, how do we make this the most badass, you know, contest platform ever? B, how do we take the pain out of it so you don't have to be on WordPress, so that you don't have to worry about if you're on a you know, a cruddy little $2 a month hosting provider. You know, it doesn't matter, because we'll host it for you. We'll build the infrastructure. We'll build this scalable app. We're going to get more data, more metrics, so that data junkies like myself can run a contest where they're like, boom, okay, this channel is converting the best. Here are the exact stats at a glance of how everything is doing. Everything is automatically being subscribed to my email list. Everything is being subscribed to an SMS list if I want that. You know, I have real-time analytics, all these great features. And so we started building our SaaS, right? And SaaS, for those who don't know, is just software as a service. And sort of quietly for a few months, we started building a SaaS. And when we launched it, to be honest, it was ugly. It was ugly, ugly, ugly. But it worked.
Sure.
Right? And that's what was important, because minimal viable product. And we needed to get something out there so we could start getting customer feedback, getting them to use it. Because, you know, when you build a WordPress plugin, you're building a little bit of feature set on top of an existing code base. For SaaS, unless you write it, it pretty much doesn't exist.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
So getting to that minimal viable product took a lot more legwork to get to that first step than a WordPress plugin did. But as we've learned and evolved and improved, it's just been phenomenal to listen to our customer feedback and adjust the product and tweak and pivot and refine the naming schemes and the pricing, you know, tiers and all the little features that are, again, laser focused on features that drive leads, right? And so that's always been our ethos and always will be. And that's, I think, what helps us stand apart from the competition, because, again, for those small business owners that say, I only have X amount of dollars, X amount of hours to invest in trying to grow my business online, as soon as you can get them to see the hard facts that the email list is the best path to get there, it becomes a no-brainer solution for them to pick us over someone else who's going to get them more Facebook likes, right? Because I can't take Facebook likes to the bank. I don't know if you can, but it hasn't worked out for me so far.
Yeah, no, I agree. So let's talk a little bit more about the details of the software and how someone can benefit from it. So you're saying it will generate more emails, more people subscribing to emails by giving out like a contest, a giveaway. Tell us the details, a little bit more of the details about it, and how, for example, it can grow someone's list.
Sure. So, you know, the whole concept of a contest or sweepstakes is obviously you give something away of value. Somebody who wants that item is going to give you their information. And then we've structured it in such a way that as that person goes to bat, bringing you more users, it increases their chance of winning. That's the simple answer.
Okay.
What's important to know, though, is the prize has a huge bearing on the quality of that lead. And if you ask most people, just pick anyone on the street and say, you know, hey, you know, if a gun was to your head and you had to run a contest, what would you give away? Mm-hmm. I can almost guarantee you that 90% or more of those people would say, an iPad.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, and the sad part is unless you are Best Buy or Newegg or an electronics retailer, an iPad does not pre-qualify that person to buy what you do and sell.
Correct.
Right? Because the whole thing we talked about with the email is giving information for something of value that you can sell because they're interested. So what we try to teach all of our customers is, if you're going to run a contest, you want to make sure that you're giving away something that is really targeted to what you do and sell. Now, if you're going to give away an iPad, you have to give away something that makes it unique to your niche. So a good example is one of our customers was Julep. They're a nail parlor, and they also ship boxes of nail polish and other stuff, right?
Okay.
It's kind of funny. Like, who would have thought I would help run a contest for this? But they gave away an iPad, but it was an iPad plus the entire nail polish collection that they have. It was like 80 nail polishes. Now, if you look at the demographics, it, of course, was highly skewed towards women that are interested in those kind of products.
Sure.
So while they're giving away an iPad to anchor the value of the prize, the nail polish really targeted the kind of person that was entering.
Got you. Got you. Yeah.
And what they did to turn that into sales was at the end of the campaign, because they have the box service, which is typically like 20, 25 bucks a month, they ran an entry offer where, hey, this person won, one person won the contest out of 31,000 plus people who entered. They said, but for those of you who didn't win, you can start your own nail polish collection and get the first month for a penny. Boom. Hundreds of people on a rebill for 25 bucks a month, right? I mean,
yes.
No brainer.
Yes.
Right? Because it pre-qualified those people to want what they do and sell. And so when you do that, and the sheer nature of a contest, which has built-in scarcity, right? Because there's a start and an end date. It has built-in motivation to share. You dramatically increase your chance of winning. And when the prize is good, it pre-qualifies that user. You're going to get higher conversion rates than any of your other standard landing pages, right? Because of the scarcity and the quality of the offer. You're going to get way more viral effect because nothing else can stack the value for referrals like a contest can. And that person's going to be qualified as heck to buy what you do and sell because of what you gave away. So it's sort of this campaign in a box that people can deploy in their business when they pick the right prize and they put some weight behind it to get more return on their blood, sweat, and tears than any other solution. So that's why it works. Sure. That's why small businesses like it.
Sure, that makes sense. My offline business is a home security company, and if I were doing something like this, I'd be giving away, maybe 5 free motion detectors. I'd be giving away 3 months of service for free. There's not giving away a hockey stick when I'm dealing with home security. It makes sense, because what's their motive? What are they basically? The people you're bringing in, they're targeted towards what your offer is. So I kind of, I guess where I'm kind of confused a little bit on is, are you saying that people can refer other people in through your funnel as well? And they as kind of like affiliate referrals, for people they bring in, or how does that kind of work?
Yeah. So let's just say I was entering a contest, right? And so this is a standard contest flow. So I would enter my name and information, right? Offer looks great. I want to enter the contest. As soon as I hit submit, then I see a request to invite 3 of my friends via email.
Gotcha.
If I do, I'll get certain points for each email, plus I'll get a bonus if I do all 3. And then as those friends actually enter, I'll get even more points, right? And then when I hit invite, then it says, great, you want to share this on your social channels, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, etc. Heck yeah, and as each person clicks the links that I share and enters themselves, I get more points.
Gotcha.
And dramatically more points than the person entering got for entering, because they're going to see the exact same sort of upsell credit system, right? And so that allows you to either, run a campaign as a business that is just email follow-up, or you can do email follow-up and you can actually enable a button on the last step that says continue to see an offer page, to browse your blog, to consume content, to send them to an e-commerce page, etc. So that you're sucking in the lead that's pre-qualified, they're sharing with their friends, and then you're putting them in front of an offer. And so it's a pre-built funnel that we test like crazy, that converts like crazy. And so all you have to do basically is fill in the blanks, pick a really creative prize that your ideal customer is going to salivate over, launch, and drive traffic.
That's awesome.
So that's how it works.
That's awesome and exciting, and I can already see the potential in it with my business alone. So I'm definitely going to check it out after this, and I'll have to become a customer. You got me sold in on it. Hey, I mean, the biggest things happen from taking action, and that's what I always teach on the Entrepreneur Adrenaline Show. It's so many people are stuck, caught in their ways, just not taking action. If something makes sense to you, and you can actually build a map as to how something would work for your actual business, you need to take action. And, Tony Robbins says it best, 24 hours after you actually get that idea. If you don't take action right away on that, what's going to happen is it's slowly going to go to the back burner, and you're just going to kind of put it on the sidewall. So, I mean, this is something that I can see a lot of people benefiting from. And, especially really getting more information on it to actually see it in use. And, I'm at your site right now. If you want to please plug in your site, let our viewing audience know where they can go to get more information about it.
Sure. They just go to contestdomination.com, and we have a free trial that allows you to go through, all the steps, integrate your accounts, see how the funnel is set up, even preview the steps, and then you have options to upgrade. But the trial lets you get in there, get your hands dirty, see how everything connects, see how the sausage is kind of made behind the scenes, see how the funnel is set up, and preview the functionality to see if it's something that makes sense for your business.
Awesome.
So contestdomination.com.
Awesome. And I'll link that definitely in the show notes. One thing I want to relate to, another thing actually, is when you mentioned earlier on about pizza, I used to be the guy making the pizza, sending it out to the delivery people to actually go and deliver. So yeah, I'm very familiar with that too. We have a lot of similarities. There was a lot of things you were saying. I'm like, you know what? I went through that too. It's definitely a journey. And the Entrepreneur Adrenaline Show really is about helping people, in the modern day today, increasing their sales, increasing their, again, email lists, which in return will increase sales. But the modern way, a lot of people are still stuck in what was working yesterday. And some of the things that were working yesterday, like email marketing, still works today. However, there are different ways to help give it that boost, help give it that fire, help increase more sales, and help convert more. And that's where I always tell people, you got to stay ahead of that curve. And if you're not staying ahead of that curve, you're going to watch your competition just fly right by you. And, I personally can say, so far from what you said about this looks like something that I really am sticking behind, that it can really benefit. I could see it spreading. Why? Because if you stop and look why network marketing works, people who network market like multi-level marketing and stuff, people buy from people they like and trust. So with what you're saying right now, if, for example, I were to send an email blast to my list, people know me already. They know I'm genuine. They know I'm true. I can already see that obviously it would convert a lot higher than me just going across to some random neighborhood and say, hey, you want to go and check this out? Yeah, fine. They'll be nice enough to listen to me, but yeah, I'll go check it out later. So, I can see that being very beneficial for that one aspect alone. One thing, if you don't mind touching up on, is you said people can click like on Facebook and, share it on Twitter. How would that kind of tie in back to bringing somebody and that person getting the points for it? How does that kind of work?
So we have a pretty sophisticated tracking system that's based on tokens. And so we can actually tell not only that link was unique to the person who shared it, but we can tell that link was unique to the person who shared it on Facebook compared to the link to the link they shared on Twitter,
Gotcha.
to the link they sent out via email. So, we can say with extreme confidence, most analytics programs, guess based on referring agent and stuff. Mm-hmm. Because we use all of these different URLs, we actually have a really high degree of confidence of who it came from, what channel it was on, and how well it's converting. That's awesome. So, it's all unique links. So if you entered and shared on Twitter, and I entered and shared on Twitter, those two links would be different. If I went and then shared it on Facebook, that link would actually be different than the one I shared on Twitter, but they would all drive to the same designed page. Gotcha. It would display the same content, the same offer that's proven to convert, right? But it would know that it's from me. And as soon as that person opts in, it will roll the points up to the person who shared it.
Got you. And for the people that actually refer other people, these tokens they collect, you can set up in the back office exactly what you get for how many tokens cashing in, or how does that kind of work out?
Yeah. So because we made it software as a service, there's actually almost no code at all that anyone would ever have to touch. At most, they'd be copying and pasting a script for tracking conversions, but even that is our business account. So for most accounts, we just say, hey, how many points do you want to give people for entering? By default, it's 1. How many points do you want to get on confirmed referrals? By default, that's 10, because we want to really weight it. Yeah. And then for the email engine, we say, how many points do you want to give them for each person they invite via email? By default, it's 2. How many bonus points do you want to give them if they complete the entire section and invite all 3 friends? By default, it's 8, right? So all the numbers that are filled in by default are proven to convert. So honestly, you probably don't even have to stress about it. If it's something that you're interested in doing, you just have to decide, what are you going to give away and how many of them are you going to give away?
Yeah.
Tell our system how many winners to pick for you, fill in the information, and let the points just do what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then these referrers, would they get a different prize than the prize, obviously, for the person who's, or obviously you can set it up the same, but normally would the referrers get a different prize? Or
If they're actually competing for the same prize.
Got you.
But if I entered and I got 1 point and then I referred you, when you entered, I would have 11 points. And because you just entered, you'd have 1.
Gotcha.
So it's, a lot of even the people that are trying to do point systems, in my opinion, still screw it up because they're like, well, refer your friend and you'll get 1 extra point. Well, if I have 1 point now and then I refer you, we both get 1 point. I've just like, what's the incentive? I've just neutralized my extra point because now you have 1 too.
Yes.
And so, my percentage of the total pool is really pretty unchanged.
Yes.
But if I get 10 extra points for getting you to enter, well, I want everyone to enter through my link because I will have this exponentially growing chance of winning, right?
Got you. That's awesome. That seems really cool. And just one last thing to touch up on. We're coming to the end here. I really want to touch up on sales. I'm all about teaching people. I've been teaching sales for a really long period of time. If you're creating a website and you're trying to sell something, you really have to understand that setting up your offer in the way, in as much detail as possible, to where when somebody lands on your website or somebody's looking at what you have to offer, it has to deliver the message in the most proper way. Like, people who are listening to this right now, I know they're going to take action and jump forward to get this product. But that's because we talked about it. We went through the details of it. And, as opposed to somebody who just lands on a website, oh, this looks cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm more than likely not going to buy. So for people who want to increase their conversions, understand that concept of even this interview that you guys listened to. If you can take the biggest, most best parts of, if you were to explain to somebody else talking about your product, this is what I always teach. If I were to sit down with somebody else like you, for example, right now, and talk to you about my home security company, I can tell you after a long period of time, you'll have a totally different experience about what a home security system can do. And it's those main details that people go, oh, really? I didn't know this can do that. That really make that buying decision, which is what's building value in your actual product. So on top of, this product, what you were talking about, I really want people to understand that so they can look back at their offers, their sites, and jump into that.
Well, that's part of why email is so valuable, because it allows you to really do 2 things.
Yeah.
Educate and communicate, right? So educate, not necessarily just your offer, but at the high level, your marketplace, why it exists and why it's valuable. Yeah. And then as you're giving that content, you're building up a relationship, right? Which is a communication aspect. So if you can educate and then communicate and then drive them to an offer, you will see phenomenal conversions.
That's awesome. It's so true. Travis, I want to thank you so much for your time. To finish this off, where can people go to get more information about you, or what you're basically offering right now?
Sure. So, obviously there's information on contestdomination.com, but we actually also offer quite a bit of content on prospectdomination.com, where they can read more about myself and learn from some of the tips, like our recently released $1 Facebook ad trick on how to get past EdgeRank, and cool little sort of, not hacks, but laser focused tips for minimal dollars to actually achieve results. So that's where they can connect with me. I reply to as many comments as I can on there, and they can shoot me the information there as well. So,
Travis, thank you so much. You're a wonderful man in the industry. It's great. It's great to have you in. I could tell you're a genuine man. Thank you so much for this interview. It was
Thanks
awesome.
for having me on. I appreciate it.
Anytime. You take care. Bye-bye.